Modern society constantly pushes us to achieve more, while at the same time offering more distractions to siphon away our time and energy. Free to Focus, 2019, offers a solution to this paradox. Achieve more by doing less. Michael Hyatt argues that true productivity isn't about how much you do, but rather how important and fulfilling those tasks are to you. His approach challenges the conventional wisdom of constant hustle, instead suggesting that you streamline your schedule and eliminate as many tasks as possible, leaving you free to focus on what really matters. Hyatt brings decades of leadership experience to his productivity teachings. He served as chairman and CEO of Thomas Nelson Publishers, one of the largest publishing companies in America, before founding his own leadership development company, Full Focus, formerly Michael Hyatt Company. Beyond Free to Focus, Hyatt has authored several best-selling books on leadership and productivity and has developed widely used planning tools like the Full Focus Planner. In this guide, we'll start by explaining Hyatt's definition of productivity and why he says that a simple shift in mindset can start you on the path to a more balanced, happier life. We'll then introduce the Productivity Matrix, a tool for reviewing your regular activities and finding ways to spend your time more effectively. Finally, we'll discuss 4 strategies for maximizing your productivity. 1. Removing unproductive activities from your schedule. 2. Giving tedious or time-consuming tasks to others. 3. Automating your life and work as much as possible. 4. Taking good care of yourself. Our commentary will compare and contrast Hyatt's ideas with other influential productivity guides, such as Stephen Covey's First Things First and Ali Abdaal's Feel Good Productivity. We'll also suggest some actionable ideas to help you get started on your personal productivity journey. New section. A different idea of productivity. People generally think of productivity as getting a lot of things done, but Hyatt disagrees. Instead, he defines productivity as getting the right things done. The author begins by saying that, like many people in the modern world, you probably feel like you're drowning in an endless stream of emails, calls, and to-do lists. Changing how you think about productivity will enable you to accomplish more while actually working less. That, in turn, will finally allow you to get your head above water. Short form note: overwork is a global issue and a deadly one. A study by the World Health Organization, WHO, found that in 2016, more than 745,000 people worldwide died from overwork-induced heart diseases and strokes. The WHO also noted that figure as part of a worrisome upward trend. Deaths from overwork-induced heart disease increased 42% between 2000 and 2016, and deaths from overwork-induced stroke increased by 19% during that time. Therefore, mindset and lifestyle shifts like those that Hyatt endorses here may not just be a matter of happiness and life satisfaction, but also of protecting your physical health. In this section, we'll go over Hyatt's idea of productivity, as well as some guidelines to help ensure that you're being productive in a meaningful way. We'll also discuss why being productive, as Hyatt defines it, requires you to develop a clear vision of your ideal life. The purpose of productivity. Hyatt says that the ultimate goal of any productivity system is freedom. For Hyatt, freedom means being able to focus deeply on important work without being constantly interrupted with phone calls, emails, less important tasks, or other distractions. It also means having the ability to disconnect from your work and be fully present with your family and friends. Finally, freedom means having the ability to drop everything in order to handle something important or to rest and do nothing at all. Hyatt adds that you're most likely pursuing this goal already, even if you don't realize it. For instance, you go through your emails in the hopes that you soon won't have any more emails to deal with, and you earn money so you'll have the freedom to do what you want while you're not at work. Freedom, mindfulness, and living in the moment. Hyatt defines freedom as the ability to be fully present and engaged with whatever you're doing, whether that's working, socializing, or resting. In short, being free of distractions. This idea is better known as present moment awareness, or more colloquially, living in the moment. Psychologists and self-help experts alike say that living in the moment has significant benefits for your mental and emotional health. First of all, by definition, present moment awareness means that you're not stressing yourself out by regretting the past or worrying about the future. It also allows you to fully experience and appreciate each moment as it comes, which boosts your mood and overall happiness. Finally, greater awareness of the present moment makes you better able to recognize stressors and other challenges, and to meet those challenges in healthy, productive ways. Before you start, decide what you're working toward. Recall that for Hyatt, productivity doesn't just mean accomplishing a lot, it means accomplishing important things. To do this, you first need to figure out what's important to you. Hyatt says you need to start with a clear idea of what you want your life to look like, your personal vision of success. This means deciding what matters most to you, whether that's your career, your family, spirituality, hobbies, or something else that you're passionate about. Also, consider how much of your life you'd ideally devote toward each of those pursuits. This vision will become your guidepost as you work to create a balanced and fulfilling life. For instance, if you envision yourself as CEO of a large corporation, you'll probably have to devote most of your time to your career. On the other hand, if your ideal life is being a stay-at-home parent, then you likely see yourself devoting most of your time to your family. These are both valid concepts of success and would serve as effective goals to build a life around. Make sure you're working toward what you really want. Hyatt says that the first step toward a happy, fulfilling life is to decide what success looks like for you. In other words, to decide what you really want. In the Desire Map, self-help expert and entrepreneur Danielle Laporte makes a similar claim, saying that the key to happiness is to pursue what you want while using your feelings as a guide. However, Laporte builds on this idea by saying that it's crucial to first make sure you're pursuing things that you genuinely want. She warns that peer pressure or your own preconceived ideas about success and happiness could lead you to devote your life to what others think will make you happy. That's why Laporte emphasizes listening to your feelings. Outside influences like social media, family expectations, and cultural norms might influence your judgment, but your emotions will always let you know whether you're truly happy with your life. New section. A fundamental tool, the productivity matrix. We've covered the goals of Hyatt's productivity system and why it could benefit you. However, before we go into specific strategies, there's another foundational topic to discuss, a tool that Hyatt calls the Freedom Compass, which helps you evaluate the value of the things you do. Instead of Freedom Compass, we'll be using the term productivity matrix to highlight this tool's purpose, productivity, and its similarities to the famous Eisenhower priority matrix. Short form note, the Eisenhower priority matrix is a 2x2 grid where you sort your tasks into zones according to two criteria, importance and urgency, and follow specific guidelines for handling the tasks in each zone. Hyatt's Freedom Compass uses different criteria and different guidelines, but the overall concept is the same. Organize the things you need to do into 4 categories, then handle each category appropriately. Creating your productivity matrix. Hyatt's productivity matrix helps you evaluate tasks based on 2 criteria, interest and skill. Interest means that a task invigorates you. Thinking about it gets you excited, and working on it makes you feel energized rather than drained. Skill represents your ability to get results. A task you're skilled at is one that you can do correctly and efficiently. Short form note, Hyatt presents interest and skill as 2 separate criteria, but it's much easier to develop skills related to things that you're interested in. In Feel-Good Productivity, productivity expert Ali Abdaal emphasizes that working on exciting and meaningful tasks not only empowers you to be more productive, it also makes you think more creatively. That creativity, in turn, helps you solve problems and overcome challenges. In other words, interest doesn't just make you want to become more skilled, it also makes you more capable of doing so. Your productivity matrix should end up looking something like this. Note that there are 4 distinct zones your activities can fall into. 1. The grind zone contains tasks you neither enjoy nor excel at. These are things that simply drain your energy and waste your time. 2. The tedium zone is for activities that you're skilled at but lack enthusiasm for. These are the tasks that you tend to get stuck with just because you're good at them. Short form note, if you find yourself stuck working on tasks in these first 2 zones, you may be able to boost your interest by finding ways to make them either more or less challenging. This is because how difficult something is for you can have a large impact on how much you enjoy it. As James Clear writes in Atomic Habits, the most engaging kind of task tends to be one that you can succeed at about half of the time. If it's too much easier, you'll get bored, and if it's too much harder, you'll get frustrated. So, for an activity in your grind zone, you might try asking for advice or finding a helpful tool to make it easier. Conversely, for an activity in your tedium zone, you might try setting challenges like seeing if you can finish it in a certain time limit. 3. The inefficiency zone encompasses tasks you love doing but aren't particularly good at. This zone can be dangerous because your passion might blind you to your lack of skill, leading you to waste a lot of time that you could have spent more productively. However, note that tasks in this zone can move into your productivity zone if you become more skilled at them. This potential to improve means it's not necessarily bad to work on inefficiency zone tasks. Just be mindful of why you're doing those tasks and how long you're spending on them. Short form note, Hyatt says that spending time on tasks in this zone is a poor use of your time, or at best, a way to improve your skills. However, that mentality is likely to lead to exhaustion and burnout. It implies that hobbies and other fun activities are only worth doing if you're good at them. In Feel-Good Productivity, Ali Abdaal warns against this side hustle mindset because indulging in your hobbies is a crucial way to rest and restore your mental energy, thereby preventing yourself from burning out. However, if you turn opportunities for fun into more work, doing those once enjoyable activities will increase your risk of burnout rather than lowering it. 4. The productivity zone is for tasks that you're both interested in and skilled at doing. This is where you can accomplish the most work in the least time. Also note that personal activities, like spending time with loved ones and taking time for rest and recreation, are just as important as work, making them good candidates for this zone. Short form note: applying the productivity matrix to non-work activities may seem strange. For instance, what does it mean to be skilled at spending time with your friends? In The Courage to Be Happy, the authors offer one possible answer. While discussing the importance of giving back to your community, they note that contributing doesn't always mean concrete acts like making donations and volunteering. You can improve the lives of people you're with in some small way just by being yourself and spending time with them. In this context, being good at a hobby or social activity simply means that people are happy to have you there. Using your productivity matrix. Hyatt says you should try to spend as much time as possible doing tasks in your productivity zone while minimizing the time you spend in the other zones. This process begins with an honest self-evaluation. Think about how you currently spend your time and energy, and identify which of your activities fall into each zone of the productivity matrix. For example, does your job fall into your productivity zone, meaning that it holds your interest and you're skilled at it, or into your tedium zone, meaning you're good at what you do but not really interested in it? Do the same for any other tasks that take up a significant amount of your time, such as activities you regularly do with clubs or other social groups, hobbies you practice, and volunteer work or side jobs you have. The author also says that activities outside of your productivity zone are things you should consider removing from your life if possible. The next section goes into detail about removing such activities. Short form note: it won't always be possible to avoid the tasks in your tedium zone, but by finding ways to make those tasks more interesting, you may be able to move them into your productivity zone. Research suggests that one way to become more engaged with any activity, such as work or other unavoidable tasks like chores, is to set challenging yet attainable goals for yourself. For example, if cleaning your house is in your tedium zone, you might challenge yourself to have one room completely cleaned by the end of the day. That challenge gives you a concrete goal, thereby motivating you to work towards that goal, and a clear endpoint so you can enjoy the satisfaction of finishing an important task. New section. Strategy number 1. Get rid of unproductive activities. Now that we've explained Hyatt's definition of productivity and introduced a crucial tool for identifying productive activities, you have a strong foundation to start working through his various productivity strategies. The first strategy is to eliminate as many unproductive tasks as possible from your life. In this section, we'll discuss why it's important to remove unproductive activities from your schedule and how to turn down requests that don't help you reach meaningful goals. Choosing your commitments. Hyatt begins by reminding you that you can only do one thing at a time, so whenever you commit to doing something, you're also opting to not do other things. That may seem like an obvious statement, but staying mindful about these inherent trade-offs helps you make better decisions regarding how you'll spend your time. For example, if you agree to meet a friend at the bar one evening, you can't use that time to be with your family, prepare for work the next day, or get to bed early. Hyatt isn't saying it would be wrong to spend time with your friend instead of doing those other things. Just make sure to consider the opportunities you'd pass up by making such a commitment. Hyatt adds that the productivity matrix is the perfect tool for evaluating requests and opportunities. Before committing to something, consider whether it falls into your productivity zone, meaning the area where your skills and interests align with each other. If this new task is in your productivity zone and you have the time for it, you'll most likely want to accept that commitment. If not, you should strongly consider turning the other person down. Consider whether your commitments meet your needs. Free to Focus shares many principles with the book, First Things First by management expert Stephen R. Covey. One of the most notable similarities is both books' emphasis on eliminating tasks and activities that don't serve a purpose. However, Covey adds to this idea by identifying 4 essential needs that everyone shares. 1. Survival. To sustain life, people need physical necessities like food, shelter, and medicine. 2. Connection. People need to socialize in order to stay mentally and emotionally healthy. Connection includes both friendships and, for most people, romantic relationships. 3. Learning. People naturally crave knowledge and new experiences. Without such novelty, we tend to become bored or even depressed. 4. Giving back. People want to feel important and useful, like they've improved the world in some way. This is also closely related to the desire to be remembered after death. So when deciding whether to make a commitment, first consider whether it will help you meet one of your fundamental needs, and if making that commitment will force you to pass up another opportunity that would meet your needs more effectively. Tip: make a do not list. To help keep yourself on track, Hyatt says that creating a list of things not to do is just as important as maintaining a to-do list. This involves examining your current commitments and activities and identifying which tasks can be permanently eliminated from your life. Then, write those tasks down so that you remember not to do them or to make commitments relating to them anymore. For instance, if you often stay up late playing a particular video game instead of getting a good night's sleep, that game is a good candidate for your do not list. Short form note: permanently removing something from your life, even something you've identified as unproductive, is often difficult because of what psychologists call loss aversion, where people feel loss more strongly than they would feel an equivalent gain. For example, the happiness you feel from a bartender handing you a drink is much less intense than the disappointment you'd feel if you then spilled it. Due to loss aversion, adding something to your do not list feels very risky. The benefits of doing so would have to far outweigh the loss of what you gave up in order to seem worth it. Turning people down. As we've discussed, it's important to carefully choose your commitments. To help you do so, Hyatt offers some advice on how to effectively but politely turn people down. First of all, remember that your time and energy are finite, and decide who you're willing to spend those limited resources on. These are most likely people such as your family, your boss, your friends, and so on. Making these distinctions helps you feel ready to protect your productivity by saying no if someone who isn't on your list of important people tries to request your time and attention. Second, recognize that you can, usually, reject a request without causing any serious resentment or hurt feelings. Hyatt says that you can do so simply by setting your refusal in the proper context. When turning someone down, it's usually best to start by making it clear that you listened to their request and gave it due consideration. Next, clearly and firmly decline the request. Finally, offer an alternative solution if possible. Now the other person understands that you heard them out, and you do want to help, but their request just wasn't feasible for you. Short form note: in many cases, the fear of upsetting someone else by turning down a request is overblown. As psychologist Matthew Boland writes, most people will be understanding rather than angry or disappointed. If saying no is something you find difficult to do, they may even be pleased that you're taking care of yourself by putting your own needs first. Conversely, those who do get upset over being rejected were probably trying to manipulate or exploit you in some way. They're only angry because they consider themselves more important than you, and they expected you to do the same. What if saying no feels impossible? Psychotherapist Amy Morin, author of 13 Things Mentally Strong People Don't Do, writes that some people have a very hard time turning others down. People like this are commonly known as people pleasers, and their fear of saying no usually comes from a lack of self-esteem. Such people feel the need to be accepted and liked because they get their sense of self-worth from other people. As a result, the thought of disappointing someone else, in this case by telling them no, causes intense anxiety for the people pleaser. In extreme cases, this can lead to burnout and self-destructive behavior because they continually place other people's wants above their own needs. Morin recommends breaking out of people-pleasing habits by starting small. For instance, say no to something relatively unimportant, like a project that you know someone else can handle, or a dinner date you don't want to go to. Give your honest opinion about something simple, like a popular movie you didn't care for. Stand up for something you believe in. While this is more consequential than the other options, you'll likely find that having the courage of your convictions makes it easier to break through your anxiety. New section. Strategy number 2. Give your tasks to other people. We've discussed getting rid of unproductive tasks in order to free up your time and energy for meaningful work. However, it's most likely impossible to eliminate every activity outside of your productivity zone, which is why this section will discuss another strategy: letting other people handle tasks for you. By delegating tedious or time-consuming responsibilities to others, you can dramatically improve your productivity and your satisfaction. While this approach is more difficult at first than handling tasks yourself, you need to find the right people, negotiate their compensation, and train them. The long-term benefits will far outweigh that initial investment of time and effort. Short-form note: Hyatt writes as though delegation is a simple matter, but for those who don't have a lot of money, compensating others for such work isn't feasible. One possible solution is skill bartering. Instead of paying people with money, arrange a fair trade where they help you with a task they're good at, and in return, you help them with a task that you're good at. For example, perhaps someone you know would be willing to help you make a financial plan in exchange for your help with the marketing campaign. In this section, we'll review various types of delegation, then share Hyatt's advice on choosing which tasks to delegate. Choosing the right kind of delegation. Hyatt notes that there are various types of delegation, each of which provide different levels of autonomy and responsibility. It's thus important to clarify exactly what you expect the other person to do and how much freedom they have in choosing how to do it. This will help prevent confusion and frustration for both parties. The most basic type of delegation is for when you simply want a specific task done. The person you assign the task to will have minimal autonomy, but also minimal responsibility. All they have to do is follow your instructions. Short form note: Free to Focus was published in 2019. Since then, many AI tools have emerged as efficient ways to handle simple but time-consuming tasks that you might have previously used this type of delegation for. For example, ChatGPT and Claude are useful for writing first drafts of emails or other documents. Otter has a variety of tools for transcription and note-taking during meetings, and Jasper can create marketing materials like blog posts or social media content. Hyatt's next type of delegation is for when you want someone to look into a particular subject or problem. For instance, you might need information about what movies are currently popular with a certain demographic, or what software could help with a particularly tedious part of your workflow. This kind of delegation requires you to provide a bit more autonomy. Step-by-step instructions won't always work for conducting research, so your worker needs to have enough freedom to explore the issue as they see fit. After completing their research, they should report their findings and offer recommendations if asked. However, at this level of delegation, all final decisions are up to you. Short form note: Another benefit of delegation, particularly when you allow your workers a degree of autonomy, is that it encourages them to actively seek feedback. This is because by giving them autonomy, you're showing trust and confidence in their abilities, and they'll naturally want to live up to your expectations. Furthermore, employees who ask for feedback of their own volition and use that feedback to improve their job performance will make you even more productive in the long run, because you won't need to spend as much time checking and correcting their work. The final kind of delegation Hyatt discusses is empowering the person to make decisions and implement them without your approval. Even at this level of autonomy, it's common to require regular reports and updates: what decisions the person made, how they executed those decisions, and their results. With that said, if you trust the person enough, you can give them complete autonomy by waiving that requirement. Short form note: While allowing someone else to make and implement decisions without your oversight can be risky, it may also lead to better outcomes for both of you. The authors of Humanocracy say that empowering your workers to make decisions and holding them accountable for the results of those decisions boosts their engagement and job performance. This is because autonomy and accountability give people a sense of ownership. The work feels like it's truly theirs, so they'll try to do work they can be proud of. Conversely, companies that push bureaucratic ideals like efficiency and compliance don't foster that sense of ownership, so their employees tend to be apathetic toward their work. New section. Strategy number 3: Automate as much as possible. Delegation works well for difficult or complex tasks. Unfortunately, in many cases, simple tasks that you need to do regularly take up a great deal of time that you'd prefer to spend on more meaningful work. Hyatt says that automation offers a powerful solution to this problem. In this section, we'll review 3 areas where automation can significantly reduce your mental load and boost your productivity: the small tasks you do every day, your communication methods, and repetitive or tedious tasks you have to handle while working. Automating your daily tasks. Hyatt's first strategy is what he calls self-automation, which focuses on creating consistent habits and routines in your daily life. This strategy ensures that you complete simple but important tasks efficiently and frees your mind to focus on more meaningful issues. For instance, if you wake up at the same time every morning, then shower, shave, get dressed, eat breakfast, brush your teeth, and leave for work, in that order, pretty soon that routine will become a habit, and you'll carry it out more or less automatically. This means that while you're carrying out your morning routine, you can be thinking ahead and planning how you'll tackle that day's tasks and challenges. Short form note: Hyatt recommends developing work and lifestyle habits in order to automate simple tasks, but he doesn't give much guidance on how. In Atomic Habits, James Clear says that the best way to create new habits and stick with them is to start by identifying what kind of person you want to be. If you commit yourself to becoming, say, a disciplined and devoted worker, you'll naturally try to develop habits in line with that identity. For instance, you might start waking up earlier than you're used to. This may be difficult at first, but over time, you'll find that it just becomes part of your routine. Clear adds that eventually you'll internalize your new identity and start waking up early simply because that's the kind of person you are, rather than because you're consciously choosing to do so. Additional benefit: automating your mindset. Hyatt adds that another reason to create routines is because habits also serve as cues for you to get into certain mindsets. If you always start your workday by, say, checking your emails, then opening your inbox will subconsciously signal to you that it's time to be focused and productive. Similarly, a consistent end-of-day habit, perhaps turning off your work computer at the same time each day, will let your mind know that it's time to stop thinking about work. This will free you up to focus on other important activities like resting or spending time with your family. Performing small rituals like these throughout the day will help you automatically shift into the right mindsets at the right times. This will enable you to be fully present and engaged with whatever you're currently doing. How habits work. In Atomic Habits, Clear outlines the 4 stages of habits to explain why we often find ourselves repeating the same behaviors over and over, whether they're beneficial or harmful for us. These stages are 1. Cue, the trigger that initiates your behavior. Continuing the above example, if your workday ends at 5 o'clock, then seeing that time displayed on the clock is the cue for your end-of-day habits. 2. Craving, what the cue prompts you to do. In this case, it makes you want to turn off your computer and be with your family. 3. Response, the actual action or actions you perform, turning off your computer and starting your commute back home. 4. Reward, the benefit you gain from performing the habit. Following Hyatt's reasoning, the reward here is that you now get to enjoy spending time with your loved ones at home. This framework also helps to explain why habits stick and why trying to create new habits often fails. Clear says that for a habit to form successfully, it needs to be obvious, cue, attractive, craving, easy, response, and satisfying, reward. Noticing that it's 5 o'clock, turning off your computer, and enjoying the reward of fulfilling time with your family certainly meets all of those criteria. Therefore, it's an effective habit that will help get you in the right mindset for the rest of the day. Automating your communication. Hyatt's second automation method is what he calls template automation. This involves creating standardized responses and outlines for common situations, allowing you to communicate quickly and efficiently. For example, you might develop email templates for frequent types of requests, rather than having to write every email from scratch or create standard presentation formats for regular meetings. Then you'd only need to worry about what information you're presenting, not how to present it. Investing time up front to create high-quality templates not only saves time in the long run, but often results in clearer, more professional communications. This is because you can carefully craft and refine your templates over time, then simply fill them out as needed for each individual situation. Such templates also minimize the risk that you'll make mistakes like leaving out important information or accidentally saying something rude. Short form note, automating your communications like Hyatt suggests may not work for some entrepreneurs, as it risks you losing your customers' sense of personal connection and therefore their trust. In permission marketing, marketing expert Seth Godin recommends bypassing the templates and scripts and reaching out personally when selling expensive items. He acknowledges that a personal touch isn't feasible when you're communicating with a lot of people, but when it comes to individual customers making high-value purchases, building a personal relationship is often the difference between making the sale and losing that customer to one of your competitors. Automating your workflow. Finally, you can streamline your workflow using what Hyatt terms technical automation, leveraging apps and digital tools to handle repetitive tasks for you, thereby minimizing the time and energy you spend on them. For example, in a typical office setting, you might encounter automation tools like robotic process automation, RPA software, which handles data entry and transfer between systems, as well as email automation tools that sort, filter, and send pre-written responses to common inquiries. The author urges you to focus on figuring out what types of tools will help you simplify your work, rather than which specific tools you want to use. Identifying the core functions that you want to automate will help you to stay flexible enough to adapt as technology evolves. This is important because individual tools could be replaced with newer versions. Old apps might be incompatible with newer hardware or operating systems, or a developer might simply decide to stop supporting a specific tool you rely on. Tip: don't try to use too many tools. Another reason to limit yourself to identifying core functions to automate, rather than trying to incorporate a lot of specific tools into your workflow, is that using too many apps can hinder productivity instead of boosting it. Research indicates that excessive app use can actually decrease productivity by up to 40%, according to studies in the Journal of Experimental Psychology. This is because each app you introduce has its own learning curve, and because you must constantly shift your attention from one piece of software to another. When you're constantly switching between numerous different tools, this adds up to a massive drain on your time, mental energy, and productivity. Finding the right balance of tools to maximize productivity will most likely take time and experimentation. However, following Hyatt's advice by choosing the important tasks you want automated will put you on the right track. New section. Strategy number 4. Take care of yourself. So far, we've discussed various ways to simplify your life and work. In this section, we'll be discussing some important things to add to your routine in order to keep yourself healthy and productive. Hyatt begins by challenging a common misconception about productivity, the idea that time is flexible while energy is fixed. In other words, people commonly think that they can work as few or as many hours as they need to, while always maintaining the same level of productivity. However, it's really the other way around. Time is fixed. There are only so many hours in a day, while your energy levels rise and fall based on how well you take care of yourself. In other words, in order to stay productive, you must take time to rest and attend to your needs. Beware of overwork. Hyatt says that staying productive in the long run requires you to take enough time for rest and other self-care needs, but how much time is that exactly? It may be helpful to approach that question from the opposite side and ask instead how much time you should try to work each week. There's no universally correct answer, but research has provided a couple of benchmarks. First of all, regularly working more than 45 hours per week is harmful to physical and mental health in numerous ways. Such a schedule doesn't leave you with enough time to fully recover before going back to work. So the harmful effects of work stress build up over time. That can eventually lead to exhaustion, anxiety or depression, and even heart disease. Therefore, it's usually best to limit yourself to working 45 hours in a week and fewer hours whenever possible. Second, researchers estimate that the maximum number of productive hours for the average person is around 55 per week. Working more hours beyond that doesn't result in any significant amount of extra work getting done. You're simply too tired to be productive. Naturally, working so many hours will also worsen the health impacts we discussed in the previous paragraph. So if 45 hours is your soft limit for each week, 55 hours should be your hard limit. A self-care checklist for productivity. While you can't create more time in your day, Hyatt says you can make the most of the time you have by taking good care of yourself. Tending to your physical, mental, and emotional well-being will maximize your energy and consequently your productivity. Some specific self-care habits that Hyatt urges you to practice include sleep. To maximize your energy and productivity, try to get at least 7 hours of sleep every night. For more restful sleep, keep your bedroom at a cool temperature and as dark as possible and avoid looking at screens, TV, phone, computer, and so on, before bed. Eat. Your eating habits have a major impact on your energy levels throughout the day. Try to eat mostly natural, unprocessed foods for sustainable, long-term energy. Also be mindful of what you drink. Juices and sodas tend to be loaded with sugar, which will give you a quick burst of energy followed by a crash shortly afterward. Exercise. Regular exercise not only improves your physical health, it also enhances cognitive function and creativity. Just 20 to 25 minutes of moderate activity per day, such as a brisk walk or a set of yoga exercises, can produce a noticeable difference in your energy and productivity. Socialize. Taking time to nurture positive relationships with family, friends, and colleagues pays dividends in terms of both personal well-being and professional success. Not only will spending time with people you like make you happier, it will also give you valuable opportunities to network, ask for advice, and exchange favors. Hyatt recommends evaluating your social circle to determine which people give you the most energy and which leave you feeling drained. Tip: one healthy habit can lead to many others. Hyatt offers numerous suggestions for healthy self-care habits, but doesn't go into detail about how to make these lifestyle changes effectively and sustainably. In The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg explains that trying to change numerous habits at the same time runs the risk of overwhelming you. Doing too much at once will cause you to become frustrated and discouraged, and it's likely that you'll eventually give up on changing your habits. That's why Duhigg suggests choosing just one new habit to work on and seeing how that one change ripples through your life to prompt other changes. For example, suppose you decide to take Hyatt's suggestion of exercising 20 to 25 minutes every day. However, you find that you tend to get stomach pains while exercising. To avoid that discomfort, you might start eating smaller and healthier meals. You also find that the exercise makes you tired, so you start going to bed earlier. Because you went to sleep earlier, you then wake up earlier, so your mornings before work or school are now much less stressful than before. This demonstrates how changing just one core habit, in this case exercising more regularly, can naturally prompt you to adopt numerous other healthy habits as well. In this way, you can make significant changes to your lifestyle without getting overwhelmed from consciously working on many different habits at once.